Okay, this video from KOINE, this one's targeted, that is directed toward a target audience. It's about our youth, it's for the youth, it's for them to learn and to develop the skills rather than live and learn. We teach our young people to learn and therefore live. So the first topic and foremost on our list is we have an elevated condition in our local community. That is, more young people are preferring to self-destruct, to take their own lives, than to continue somehow living and learning, because that's actually backwards. And for our kids that we work with in our congregation, our assembly, we teach them the dangers of hypocrisy, because we were taught the dangers of those. And it's a pretender. And what's behind it is always social condemnation. Social condemnation. And these pretenders will sometimes become almost hyper in their orthodoxy or in their means to differentiate themselves, and it's very painful and injurious to people. And we'll just look and see some things that you might find very ironic. We have these the reality of the in crowd, let's say the in crowd, let's call this the in crowd. And there's different sizes of the in crowd. It even happens especially among religions. They somehow admire themselves for the sizes of their circles, and they try to differentiate themselves. And of course, what's strange is these folks prefer dissonance, that is disagreement, rather than agreement. So this is negative. This is a negation. So we teach young people, you need to know that usually the price for entering an in crowd is a willingness to negate disgrace, which is a disgrace to God's grace. God's so gracious and loving to us, young people. So if you're willing to pay this price, you can get in. The only problem is the more you pay to get into this crowd, you have to concern yourself now with, can the smaller ones take and endure what you're referring to? For example, the error earlier mentioned about live and learn. The problem with that is that's just the opposite of our good news. To live and learn is a terrible ordeal. It speaks basically to experience and then learn from experience. The problem is experience, this leaves scars. This is also what leads to suicide. People can't take some things they experience. So let's just turn this around and help some young people here. What we do is we learn, and subsequently we live. And this is scar-free living. There's no self-destruction. It involves it's flummox-free. You notice religious folks love to create flummoxes. If they don't have one, they'll fabricate or construct one to keep the flummox going, I suppose. But to help out our young folks, and don't want anybody to know, but I've invited some characters that my grandbaby plays with, and they're really, I don't know all their names, except she's teaching me, my granddaughter's teaching me how to understand these things. And so I'm teaching her what the greatest story ever told. So here's this crowd, this in crowd, so to speak, and they're inside and they paid their dues to come in. And listen, if you're willing to ridicule another group, you're in. The problem is the deception is young people don't know that negation, when you come into this group, you're going to trap yourself. This is a snare. And when you come in and you say, well, I want to be part of the in crowd, and you pay this price. But notice it's really sad, because again, to get into this crowd, you also have to pay that negative fee, and they pay the price. And I was just laughing, thinking how ridiculous it'd be if my grandbaby had to watch a show with beautiful, colorful characters, and somehow they were at odds with one another and tearing each other down. Problem is, if you don't go into these, they pressure you. As we teach our young people peer pressure, make sure you pick better peers. Your parents can help you with that and help you understand that if someone's pressuring you to go along, it's basically an attempt. They're pretending. They pretend that they've got it all together, or that they know better. And again, this social currency is what this is, this negation. And without a group, without some kind of brand or loyalty or something that you can then fabricate or construct so that you can then justify negating others, it becomes difficult to play along. For example, the reason why people don't like to talk about, let's say, what you can learn from religion is people who have learned what it's about. It's all about generating argumentation. It's all about us and them-ism. And what you learn really quickly is, we'll see here what the Bible actually teaches our children. Here's a group, and here's a group, and here's a group. It's kind of like a pyramid, and we teach our children to think outside the pyramid, and that's Egyptianity. And this problem with Egyptianity is it's just, filled with negation, which is the first word of that ugly word sin. Negate, negation, and that's all it is. I marvel at how difficult it is, or the labor, to study the Bible and come to a wonderful conclusion, and then publish it, to share it with others, and then find someone who doesn't bother studying, just simply saying no, or being angered by it, which that's quite an unusual state of mind. But what the text would show us is an entire book in the Bible, for example, and it's called Exodus. EX is out from, Odos, this is from Odos, way out, the way out. So there's an entire book on how to come out from this. Religion is just another word for a category of, let's just call it this. Religion is just another category. And in it, it has its own actors. It has its own dramas, much drama. And of course, this is the word hypocrisy in action, if you will. It's just another. So if you want to learn about how to navigate through social or pseudo or pretentious societies, you can learn from religion. They've been pretending for thousands of years. So when we teach people, for example, you can come out, the entire book is about and the Exodus, and the word in the Bible is a merger, and it refers to many things becoming one thing. And this is where it's not something people really can understand, because over here there's authenticity, so it's an authentic, these are authentic people. There's grace over here. It's where we live in grace. We were graced with a lamb here, and we get to come out and live over here in what we call grace land, like the promised land, grace land, authentic people. But you won't find religion teaching that baptism, for example, which is now a bad word, they'll just argue about that forever. And all you have to do real very quickly is say, well, if you were baptized, why are you still arguing? And that is, here, let's just see what it looks like. These are for my kids, and don't tell anybody. But when the Messiah came, which is a word deliverer, he came, he found all these wonderful people in Egypt, and he gave up his life for them. His life was symbolized by a lamb, and he bought them. Even in the word redemption, there's the word away from, purchased them away from. Well, then they needed a way out, the exodus. The exodus. So here we go. Instead of using these silly terms, so he gave them a way out. Here, if you want to come out and then learn and live, here's the way out, Exodus. It gives us a way out. So here now, these good folks here that he's purchased with his own blood, gave up his own life, died at the hands of the hypocrites, the social actors who condemned him. So here comes one of these characters. He comes out, and he's over here, and this one comes out, and is over here, and here she comes over here. And what you have over here is all this is all positive. Even the cross looks like a positive sign, if you notice that. So over here people posit, which is where we get our word positive. This is a verb. Over here people negate. They negate. It's where we get the word negative. And negativity will kill you eventually. You'll negate yourself. You say, well, I've never heard that. Well, that's why we're teaching, because a lot of people don't know that religion is very, very versed in social navigation and manipulation. They'll cause you to argue about even the amount of water or the age in which you were baptized. Or the big question is that's their way back into it. They'll turn you around this way. You, by approaching religion, you think you're going the right way, and what you do is end up in Egypt. Enslaved is exactly what it represents. Egypt is an order of enslavement based upon negation. And over here, this took place. And you don't need to pay social currency to enter Christ. You just trust Him. He's the only person to ever perform. And again, you can see why this would be so disturbing to religious folks, because their whole purpose is to keep all these people who could have had a wonderful life and live and not have to learn, or live and learn, so to speak. Because what if you don't survive what you're experiencing? What if you can't take the moment where you're so psychologically distressed that you take your own life? What if you can't endure the hurts and the pains that people have placed on you? This is about social drama. And this is where religion wants to keep this. But I noticed that this is where Christ calls people, and he shows us that the people that killed him were religious people. And you remember the Sadducees and Pharisees, they always argued and negated, and they cared so much about the law they'd break every one of them just to condemn someone. So this is just part one, but there's a story about Egypt. It's all represented by pyramids filled with negation. There's a way out. You can learn how to recognize hypocrites, which we'll talk about that in just a moment.